Good evening and welcome to Greater Somerville for October 28th, 2014. I'm Joe Lynch.
And I'm KyAnn Anderson.
And we are back together again.
We're back together in the spirit of the election.
And Halloween.
Well, and Halloween, too.
Halloween's coming up.
It is.
So we're going to change it up a little bit. I know that everybody has been watching the shows that you and I have been doing for political specials and things that are hip, hop, and happening here in Somerville. But this is the Tuesday before election 2014 here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. As many of you know, November 4th, we will be electing new representatives on Beacon Hill locally. We will also be electing a new governor, a new lieutenant governor, and many of the constitutional offices. I think there's only two for incumbents.
It's true.
Secretary of State Bill Galvin and State Auditor Suzanne Bump are the only two incumbents.
And one of the reasons why we thought this show was of value was because, I don't know about you, but I've gotten a slew of these mailers. It's like, vote no, vote yes. You see them everywhere. And, you know, I think that there's a lot of people out there that are still going to go into the voting booth next week, and they're just going to kind of look at these questions, and, you know, you have to kind of proofread the paragraph. We're just here to kind of explain a little bit about the pros and cons of each side so that you at home will be educated going into the ballot box if you are not already, and you will go, and we want to encourage people to vote because I think this is an important one.
And in full disclosure, KyAnn came up with the idea for ballot night. We're going to discuss the 4 ballot questions.
Ballot night.
We also, in full disclosure, and this is honest, we have not discussed between ourselves how we feel about these ballot questions.
We actually have not.
So we may debate it because you don't know how I feel about these ballot questions, and I don't know how you feel.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's one that we're in agreement on.
Yeah.
There's probably one. So we're going to go through the 4 ballot questions.
Yep.
We may go back and forth.
That's fine.
You know, we'll read what the ballot initiative is that you are going to be faced with on November 4th. Yep. We got the synopsis.
Exactly.
I pulled it right
Okay,
off the
verbatim. I was going to say
Secretary of
I don't have that memorized.
Right. And then we'll chat about it a little bit.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're not going to take phone calls, but we do encourage you, if you do disagree with us, that's fine. You can always email us.
Post it on our blog.
Post it on our blog, or you can send us private emails and tell us where we're wrong. But what we're trying to do is encourage you to do your own investigation. Do your own reading. Find out what effect these ballot initiatives are going to have on you as a voter or resident here in Massachusetts.
And also, too, not that you have that much time on your hands, but if you do and you like to investigate, I think that some of these pieces of literature that are coming to your door, I mean, don't always assume that they're correct. Don't always just assume that what you see on the TV is correct, and just do a little investigating. But like I said, it's hard with only a week to go. But,
and I guess that's why, you know, we pull our information right off the state websites.
Yes.
And they are very balanced. They give the pro and they give the con. Make your own decision. We're just here because we think it matters to you.
We're stewards to politics.
Stewards. My name's Joe, not Stewart. So we're going to start with a ballot question number 1. It is the law proposed by an initiative petition, which basically means people petitioned the state to get this question on the ballot. If it is voted in by voters, it becomes law.
Yeah.
So,
and this is a confusing one because this is one of the no means yes.
Right. So question 1 is eliminating the gas tax indexing. The summary of that is that if you vote yes, it eliminates the requirement that the state gas tax be adjusted annually based on the consumer price index. From my limited knowledge about in banking, the consumer price index is what is set to tells you the rate of inflation. So if inflation, consumer goods are going up by 3%, under this law, the state has the right to raise the gas tax by CPI. CPI is the consumer price index. So every year, if the CPI goes up by 3%, the legislature can increase the gas tax by 3%. That 3% revenue, or that revenue from the gas tax, will go back into the transportation fund.
For infrastructure.
For infrastructure
failing
improvements.
bridges, all those types of things,
Correct.
which are very
Correct.
critical.
So a yes vote eliminates that. It gets rid of it altogether. And what it basically says is every time the legislature wants to raise the gas tax, they have to go back to the voters and ask them, can we raise the gas tax?
So there's a 3-cent rise from when it was passed in 2013 to 2014.
Right.
So we're going to still see that, but then if this gets voted in and it gets repealed, then, you know, obviously.
So if you vote yes on question 1, you're going to eliminate the way that they do it today.
And you won't have a lot of additional money for infrastructure.
And there's no additional monies coming in to fix the McGrath Pass, the McGrath Highway overpass, to fix broken bridges, to repave roads. Because remember, folks, a lot of the money that comes to a municipality for road improvement and infrastructure may not be coming from the municipality itself. It comes from state funds. A no vote, if you vote no on this, it makes no change in the law. It leaves it the way it is, that says our gas taxes are tied to the CPI.
Yes.
So that's where KyAnn was referencing that it's a little bit of a confusing vote. If you say yes, you're voting to
get rid of it.
Get rid of it. If you say no, you want to keep it the way it is.
And it hasn't been changed in like 21 years.
It
so,
has been over 20 years. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is 21.
21. I knew that. So they have some arguments, though. The proponents and the opponents. Do you want to try the argument in favor of it?
Well, you know, this is a tough one because, I mean, well, I don't think... I just feel that infrastructure is always something, I mean, obviously it's near and dear to me because I currently work in an architecture engineering firm, so disclose that. But I do think that these are necessary projects. I don't think they're always the glamorous projects that people want to see all the developments, but they're very, very critical. I become very, very nervous eliminating this and having no additional, you know, not having as enough funds. I just get worried. Boston's a very old city. There's a lot of things that need to be done. Depending on what happens with the governor, you know, those are all types of things like where is that funding going to go? So for me personally, I feel that repealing it is not something that I want to do. I want to keep it to assure that the infrastructure projects that have been put forth and are going to continue to be coming down the line are actually completed. But that's my position. What do you think, Joe?
I had trouble with the summary. You know, I had never read the complete law the way they had proposed it. But I had trouble at one of the sentences in here, and if you forgive me, I'm just going to read the summary off the state's website. The proposed law would eliminate the requirement that the state's gasoline tax, which was 24 cents per gallon as of September 2013, 1, be adjusted every year by the percentage change in the consumer price index over the preceding year, but not be adjusted below 21.5 cents per gallon.
Well, the question that I had on that...
Why wouldn't they let it go below 21 cents?
Well, I think just in a sense, they want to make sure that we're getting there's some...
They want something.
Money. But my question is if there's that lower cap, what's the high cap, or is there one? They would just keep going
because
that.
No cap
I mean,
on this.
as a person that's in favor of the tax, I'm kind of like, well, there's a range for the, you know, don't go below the 21. Although it should be noted that as of July 2014, the mass gas tax was below the U.S. average. U.S. average is 49.62 per gallon, and mass was 44.9.
And you and I have both driven in Europe, and we know what the gallon of gasoline costs in Europe. So here's my conundrum.
Okay, what is
my conundrum? My conundrum says, you know, this country and the Commonwealth, we were based on, I hate to sound like a conservative here, but we are based on voters voting in their representatives and what they want their representatives to do. I have an abhorrent feeling about allowing automatic increases in anything. So it takes it out of my hands and gives it to the legislature completely after this vote. Because once this goes in, you understand and I understand, there ain't no going back. You can't roll this back and take it away because the legislature will fight tooth and nail. All legislators who have special interests in transportation projects are in favor of this. So,
in favor of keeping it.
Of keeping it, because our delegation, Senator Jalen, Representative Provost, Representative Toomey, we all have dire need for transportation infrastructure improvements. In a very old city like Somerville, an urban core, you always have bridges that need fixed. You always have roads that need fixed. You always have... I guess my problem is the way it was being sold in Somerville, and this is more me fine-tuning in the nuances of what was being said, is people think that the Green Line funding depends on this. It does not.
No, it does not.
It does not. So don't be fooled if you're making your decision based on, well, we have to vote for this because we won't get the Green Line, because if we eliminate that tax, that's not how it works. So this is right across the board. If you vote and you keep the status quo, there's no going back on this thing. And I had trouble with them putting a base on this, saying we'll never roll back below 21 cents.
How high it's going to go.
Now, you know and I know the CPI won't never drop below 1%. I mean, it's always in that 1 to 3 to 4% range. So I'm torn.
Oh, just make a decision, Joe.
But
just
I'm also saying, you know...
Repeal or not? Black and white.
I don't want them to repeal. I want transportation dollars to keep coming into the city. However, there's one more thought.
Oh my goodness.
And I totally agree with this.
Got 3 more questions.
I totally agree with this, is that people have to watch what their state representatives do with this.
Absolutely. Right. And how the money is managed.
And if they don't use this tax dollar wisely, boot them out.
No, that I would agree with.
Right. Okay.
Okay, next one. Question 2.
You want to go?
Well, no, because you've printed off the cheat sheet. I have my own opinions.
So question 2 is a law proposed by initiative petition. Once again, voters went. They would like to expand the beverage container deposit law. Do you approve of the new law summarized below, on which a no vote was taken in the Senate or the House of Representatives on or before May 5th, 2014? The summary is this. Right now, you know that we have nickel deposits on soda. Beer.
Yep, glass bottles.
Glass bottles. But not all glass bottles.
Yes, not juice.
Not juices, not olive oil.
Sports drinks.
Not anything in the
water
supermarket.
bottles, that's a big one because of how
water bottles. So what they're proposing to do, they are proposing to put a 5 cents.
So they would be the same as the
on
other
certain
ones.
beverages.
Yes, on
certain
the
beverages.
Juice, sports,
so
and the water bottle.
So a yes vote, if you say, yep, put a nickel on.
Do it.
It would expand the state's beverage container deposit law to require deposits on containers for all non-alcoholic, non-carbonated drinks, with certain exceptions, and increase the associated handling fees and make other changes to the law.
Okay.
A no vote would make no change in the laws regarding beverage container deposits. If you're happy the way that beverage container deposits works today, you vote no. If you want to see another nickel on certain beverages, that's the key.
Juice, water, and sports drinks, that's what it is.
But that's not...
That's at least what I've read.
That's not the summary.
Okay.
So,
all right.
From the Secretary of State, it says other changes to the law and certain non-alcoholic, non-carbonated drinks.
Well, let's talk about this because we've got 2 more questions. So, you know, this started in 1983. So back then, I mean, one of the arguments for the reason why they don't need it is because the amount of curbside recycling in our state has gone up dramatically, and therefore the recycling in and of itself has just happened with that, where back in 1983 that wasn't the case. So that is what they're claiming. However, this is where I'm thinking people need to really look at their stats, is that some of the flyers and advertisements are stating that, you know, there's a certain percentage of curbside recycling that, you know, 90% have curbside recycling or something of that nature. And it's actually, Boston Globe did a little checking on that, and it's actually not true. 64% have curbside recycling, and 47% of cities and towns offer the recycling. So not everyone has access to it. So that argument necessarily I don't see as strong. And then it would increase, does this increase, it will likely increase every 5 years? Does it increases?
It has automatic increases
according to inflation.
To it.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think the people that are against it are very concerned about how it's going to impact beverage distributors, the bottlers. The people that basically, take the containers are going to have to pay more. And so that's going to then be passed down to the consumer, right? But then they say in some sort of a study that Massachusetts bottles aren't necessarily priced more, even with this deposit, than say like New Hampshire. So that's another little bit of an ad twist that I don't know if that's correct. So I mean, Deval sent me a flyer. I got one yesterday, and it basically, talking about litter. Everyone wants to get rid of litter, and the water bottles themselves, they're everywhere, and they'll become more valuable, and in turn will be picked up the street more, and people will be digging in garbage cans more. Which, at any rate, I am in support of it. So yes means yes. I would like to tax those additional water and sports beverages and juices. That's my take.
I'm going to vote no on this, and I would like to see people stop the foolishness of drinking bottled water.
That I'd agree with.
And I would like to see them buy a hygienic container and use their tap water. And in that way, I think you're going to reduce the amount of plastic Poland Spring bottles that are littered in the parks, on the beaches, and in the sewers.
But do you really think that's going to happen by just telling a person? I mean, we know.
I don't think we tell anybody
social
anything,
responsibility
and I think this law is misguided. I think it's totally misguided, that it's using a scare tactic that's saying scare tactic that, oh, these bottles wind up in our rivers, our sewers, or parks, and
well, where do they go?
Well, you know what? You're right, and so do our wine bottles. I mean, I see
your wine bottles.
My wine bottles, maybe. But I see a lot of wine bottles that wind up smashed on the street, and I see a lot of containers that are not recycled. My issue has been, it's the same thing that I had with automatic increases, and that once the government, I sound like I'm a radical here, but I'm not. I've been around for a while. Once the government gets its talons into something like this, if you're going to put a nickel to try to increase recycling, right? Do it on spaghetti jars. Do it on wine bottles. Do it on everything glass that can be recycled.
Well, okay. One reason why I am in support of this, those of you who know me, I'm an environmentalist. I enjoy, green architecture, all of those types of things. If you do vote yes and say, these water bottles can be taxed, it goes into an environmental fund for waste management and air quality protection. Whereas right now it kind of goes into some general fund. Goes into general fund. So, here's this money that they're getting, and where's it going? And
that's where the deposit money goes today. It goes into the
there seems
fund,
to be more of a direct.
And it's not being used on environmental.
Exactly. So there's a direct connection between deposits of these bottles, saving the environment by getting more people to say, hey, I'm going to have my water bottle and fill it up, and therefore taking that the extra funds you get, and putting onto something that is actually environmentally
I agree
consistent
with you, but
with
it
that.
comes back down to the degree of trust that we put in state government. I don't trust them to do the right thing with some of these things. I really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had 20-odd-something years with nickel deposits to put it into an environmental fund. They've never chosen to do that. They've
that should be highlighted too by, don't you think, shows that,
so let's not tax people anymore. Let's not nickel and dime them anymore.
Let's hand out water bottles.
Revamp that original bill
and put it into the environmental fund.
Into an environmental
that
thing,
I'd agree with.
And let it come back to the voters.
A slight modification.
When they can prove to us that they've been doing the right thing with the nickel deposits
slight modification.
in the first place.
All right, compromise. Next question with 10 minutes to go.
Ready, set, go. Expanding prohibitions on gaming.
Another confusing yes means no.
That's right. And I think everyone is very familiar with this.
Yeah.
What it basically is saying to the voters of Massachusetts is, do you believe in casino gambling in Massachusetts? This went through legislative process. The governor said yes. So now it's back on the ballot.
Yeah.
It's back on the ballot. I distinctly remember this being a hot topic during the governor's race when Deval Patrick was running the first time. So here it is back before the voters again. A yes vote would prohibit casinos, any gaming establishment with slot machines, and wagering or simulcast greyhound races. Period.
Yeah.
So if you vote yes, you're voting to get rid of it.
And
If you vote no, it makes no change to the current law.
And things continue. Right. Now, it's important to note, though, that there are a couple of, there's some, that the Plainville, there's a slots parlor in Plainville, that construction would stop, and then the Everett and Springfield casino would be put on ice if this was passed. So if everybody voted yes, that would mean
it's gone.
It's gone.
Right.
So there are people that would lose jobs that are currently constructing this slot parlor, and the city of Springfield and the city of Everett has to go back to the game board to try to figure out what their economic future. I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again. Casinos in Massachusetts are not the panacea for economic revitalization of a city. They're really not. They don't guarantee that all of the revenues will go to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. They don't guarantee that all the jobs are going to go to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And they're not necessarily successful. I mean, isn't Atlantic...
And they may not be here in 5 years, considering what's happening in Atlantic City.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Atlantic City's not doing really well.
But again, it goes back to my fundamental thought processes of when does the voter have the say? The voter had the say the first time around when we voted in casinos. Now we're doing a do-over and saying, we don't want this. Let me just kind of explain why I'm going to vote to keep the casino law.
Okay.
I don't gamble. I mean, I love my money. Yeah. I like to keep it in my pocket. As little as there is, I like to keep it in my pocket. I do play the lottery when it's $252 million, like it is tonight.
That's suckered in.
I play $1. Yeah. That's the extent of my gambling. Yeah. I understand the downside of gambling, that it is an illness, that there are people who become addicted, there are social consequences to it. I get that. But I can't sit here and say that the city of Somerville and the mayor of the city of Somerville has the right to tell the people of Springfield that they cannot vote this in, that they cannot have this. That would be like the citizens and the residents of Springfield saying to Somerville, we don't like your idea about Assembly Row. We're going to get behind a movement to deny you any more federal funds or state funds. You get what I'm saying, is that we have 352 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and there's a core group of cities and towns that have targeted this bill and said, we don't want it.
But I don't think it's necessarily... I agree with some of the things you're saying, but I do think if you look at the impact of a casino, I mean, Assembly Row, it's a wonderful development, but I don't think Assembly Row is going to be bringing the type of traffic and impacts that a casino would. I just don't. And so for this town to be, for a town to be able to say, yes, absolutely, bring this casino in, I know that they want jobs and all those types of things, but I kind of feel like, well, wait a minute, they aren't the only ones being impacted. They get the positive impact of the casino, but the neighboring towns don't necessarily get that positive impact, and they didn't get a say at all. So I don't necessarily think that the way that this was passed was all that, inclusive of the people that were really going to be getting the impact. However, that said, I do believe that I myself don't gamble. I think that making jobs, and that's always positive. So the challenge here is, you're right. They do go elsewhere to gamble, and it is sad. I know people that are addicted to this. But we still have alcohol. We still have bars. So
time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell on this.
Everett wants it. Joe Curtatone says it's going to have a negative impact on Somerville. We're not a neighboring community. We don't qualify for funds to come in and help us with infrastructure.
But Massachusetts would get 25% of the casino revenues and 49% of the slot revenues, so they say.
I would have wanted 50.
Well, again, if we don't have other sources of money, okay, so you decide. Yes means no on that.
All right, so on question 4, and the final question that the voters are going to be faced with a week from tonight, earned sick time for employees. The proposed law, a yes vote, would entitle employees in Massachusetts to earn and use sick time according to certain conditions. A no vote would make no change in the laws regarding earned sick time. This one's easy for me. Yes vote right down the middle.
But this is for this is for businesses with 11 or more employees.
Correct.
And if you work 30 hours, You get 1 hour of sick time,
Correct.
and then up to a maximum of 40.
I had an interesting discussion with my boss today, who owns a small business here in Somerville. He is one of the most generous people that I know when it comes to if you have a family matter, if you are ill, because his business is small enough that he can kind of control that. When you get into larger businesses, it's a little bit more difficult to manage people who abuse.
People who are not being honest.
Exactly.
And that happens, unfortunately.
However, I don't believe in punishing the masses for the few bad apples. So I would say that yes, those companies need to provide time off for people to take care of their own health,
yes,
the health of their children, their mothers, their dads, their wives, their husbands, their partners, and they need to be able to take care of their mental health. And that was one thing that grabbed me about this bill, is that it is not just for medical, standard medical, it's also for mental health.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm in favor of it. I wholeheartedly support it, and I hope other people do too.
No, I agree with you. I'm also in support of it, and I think that, you know, Connecticut did this, but theirs were for businesses for 50 or more employees. And, you know, there's been some arguments saying that it's going to increase costs, et cetera. And Connecticut, there wasn't that much of a cost injury. There's only a few of them that have said it increased more than 5%. That being said, I recognize businesses' hesitation. I work for a very big company, but I do think
and you get great benefits.
I get decent benefits, but the thing is that, you know, if you're sick, and we're not going to go to Ebola because obviously I'm just being sarcastic there, but that, I mean, it's a very serious thing. But if you're sick, people often will go to work because they can't afford the sick time. They're you know, and this just encourages that. Or if you have a condition with someone that you love and you need to take care of, you know, go to a medical appointment.
Repeat appointments for yourself.
It just kind of makes you think, okay, you know what, I have this time, use it wisely, don't abuse it. And those are just the reasons, I'm 100% in support of it.
Let's let the voters make their own decisions a week from tonight. But I do want to mention one more time that we do have local folks up for election and re-election. We have our state delegation, state senator, 3 state reps, one open seat is available. We have constitutional offices up for grabs from governor, lieutenant governor, state auditor.
It's really
it's right down the line. This is, for us, it's been an exciting election season.
It has been exciting.
We've entertained a lot of the constitutional candidates that have come through SCAT TV. It's been our pleasure. It's one of the things that we like to do here at SCAT TV is bring the candidates in, have them present their platforms, and then you get to vote a week from tonight.
A week from tonight.
Right. November 4th.
Yeah, and the governor race, I mean, I'm really interested to see how that plays out. I do think, unlike some of the things we talked about tonight, depending on who wins that race, the legislations, those types of things will, fundings, things will change. So I hope everybody makes sure that they vote.
Next Wednesday, we'll all know. So we're going to sign off tonight. How's that?
All right, thanks for everyone for tuning in. As always, stay safe and stay informed.
And stay informed.
Good night, everyone.
See you next time.